Can you hear me now? Okay. All right. All right. So you can see my screen too, right? Or no? No, I'm surely not. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
All right. So let's get started. Okay. So this time, just keep your questions at the end, because a lot of things gonna be in flow, and let's take this time, and then we can take questions, even in the Slack group, or if we don't have time today. But let's it's a long topic, because you have cover letter, you have CV, which is very variable for everyone, but I tried to get maximum for you. All right. So before I start, I just wanted to tell two things. So last time I told you that my PC crashed, so I lost the presentation I made last time. So this time, with all the things going at my end, I have taken help from two places. One from MIT postdoctoral office; they have very nice presentation. So I copied a lot of things from there, and another is from University of Chicago postdoctoral office. So that's just a disclaimer. So you will see a lot of things refer to someone, but the main thing is message and information for you guys. So that is there. So all right, so I'll just move. So today we will be kind of talking about components of industry CV resume, and looking at what are different type of difference between CV and resume, and then we're looking into foundation and formatting of your CV. That's starting. Then drafting in industry CV strategically, and then reviewing some example CVs. Then we have cover letter, some discussion, and then conclusion. So here is, I just wanted to give you a background. This is an old survey in 2013, but things don't change too much as far as hiring goes. So this is confession. There is a book also on this, confession of the recruitment industry. So about every one application is received every 2 minute or 3 minute a job posted, and it is known that most of time when they screen, they look for 10 seconds on your CV. It is most of time it is fact, but maybe in a scientific setting they may spend more time, and 70% time they may read your cover letter. Most of time industry job does not require that, and if they see one mistake, they will be trust your CV into much of, if say they see recurrently there is a problem in a CV, they're not gonna take it further. And kind of LinkedIn is gonna be major place where the jobs coming in, and about 250 applications are received for every position, so it's highly competitive, right? And 88% time there is a rejection. People say, I'm not sure why they, if you have a photo they reject your CV. So I don't know, but just to give you snap. So let's go into our topic for today. So here is the, we science and scientists, we want to compare and contrast things, right? So I have kind of put this here. You have different things, and these are three different type of document, one related to profile. So one is CV, which is mostly used for academic purpose. A pure CV is, there is no page limit, it is detailed, you have academic application purpose. They are little tailored. Most of the time you make a CV and you just you're good to go. They are researcher specific. You include all the publication, presentation, all the everything, right? And you may not use bullet, you may write in descriptions. You want to give a story. However, resume, which is often confused with industry CV, but resume is generally like 1 page or 2 page max. It is concise. Mostly it is used for non-research jobs. It is fully tailored. Like, that means you really like make your resume for every job you're trying to get into. You're trying to customize it as per the requirement of the position. The summaries are very little, so basically you're not giving too much description in there. Publication, not much given. Generally you give your Google Scholars link or something, people can go, because you don't have space. And bullets are used a lot of keywords are used here. However, if you see industry CVs fall somewhere in between. Industry CV for scientists, I'm not talking about scientific, people who are looking for scientific position or a lot of experience in business positions. You can make 2 to 3 pages, because otherwise you will not have information there, and you don't want to miss the information. That's the purpose. Scope is extended, so it's more extended than the resume. It is research related jobs, or very a specific variety of jobs you're applying. It is fully tailored. Again, you do edit certain section of your CV every time for as per job. Summary is required, so you see here it is needed to describe your little bit of experience. Publication you so selected, you don't say everything. Whatever publication are related to that particular position you say, and the rest you give as a reference. And bullets are used heavily here. So the reason I gave you this, the three contrast, just to understand that how things look before we go into detail of each of the, So we are going to focus on industry CV and bit of resume part of it, but not on academic CV. So just before we start, I just wanted to give you this comparison, so you're not always thinking about academic CV. You're just focusing on industry CV. So foundation and formatting foremost. So a lot of time we I get application for people want to looking for jobs, and they don't want, they just use somewhere online automated CV maker, and don't want to spend time on Microsoft Word to create their own format. So generally it is advisable that you create your own format on Microsoft Word. Spend some time. It takes time, but you master it. So most commonly font used, what community says, this one is a good one. There could be many, but these are the most space efficient and visually relevant fonts. And sizes, you can go 10 to 12. Margins around the the word doc, it should be 0.7 inches to 1 inches. I'm trying to, the reason I'm giving all these basics, because these, your CDV should look atheistic, and these are the very basics. Generally people don't talk about it, but this is critical when you put everything together. So just to give some basic formatting basics. So don't go into text, don't try to read all this, but just look at the format. The first two line you have contact, then you have education can also go into bottom, we will discuss later. It may be your thesis, your degree, you may be MBA or PhD or masters, and that's how you generally, most commonly people like this, very clean. You have your university first bullet, highlighted, and then when you're finishing or you're finished, and you want to give a 2 bullet point, but what did you do, and bit of detail. Headings are important. It's very critical to have headings and subsections, otherwise it's not very good to read, right? So you should have headings. You should use bullets. So most important thing as goes as a heading, then less important, then lesser important, right? And these bullets go further lesser and lesser order of importance. And then there should be spacing in between the every heading, so make sure that you have that, you don't want to miss, and it has to be very critical. Like you format your manuscript, same way you format your CV. It's, every dot and everything has to be very precise. And so further formatting basics is like chronological order in each section, so it goes reverse chronological order. The recent one is the top, and the oldest one is the bottom. Only use relevant bullets, and most recent experience should be listed first and then goes down. Okay, and that goes for education and experience specifically, and also for award and publications. All right, so you want to list things like that for easy navigation for the person who is reading your CV. Horizontally, the most important information comes on left side, and a strong action verb should run down on the left hand side. So like I'll tell you an example, a strong action verb. So if you read this one statement here, right? Let's read this. Provide regulatory process update via email, complete as needed administrative task. So administrative task is the most strong statement on this process, right? You want to highlight that you did administrative task. So the thing you want to strongly recommend, emphasize, should go at the end, because that's how the people's brain remember. When we read any sentence, the brain, the way it remember is like at the last word you remember, the rest everything goes like haywire, right? So that's how it is formatted. The next one, which is very critical, so drafting CV is okay, and then drafting industry CV is also okay, but drafting CV strategically is another thing. It's an art, and it comes by practice. Okay, don't get overwhelmed that if you're not able to do first time, it comes by experience. I'm just telling you for your information. So knowing is good, and knowing and then applying the information is another level, and then you practice and it becomes your habit, right? So here this slide I have got from MIT Vice President Research Office. They have free available online on their website. So before you go on to prepare, so consider this resume title as industry CV. Just they say resume, I say industry CV here. So before you want to prepare your CV, you want to pause and think, who is your audience, right? So how do you know who is your audience? Because first you need to know what area you want to apply, what area you want to do application, and we covered like CAP, SWOT and all that to find out the specific areas, right? And then decide what subdomain in that area want to apply, because then you can decide who is your audience. It is a technical person, or it is a scientific person, or it is a regulatory person, or it is mix of all. So who is your audience? You should be very clear. And then how technically proficient they are, right? Because certain areas in industry may not be super technologically advanced, but certain areas are very highly. um, and then third point, what they find interesting about you. So you want to think about what is one interesting thing is related to this position I want to apply. So what is the most interesting thing about me? And material you present before early in resume is likely, they stand out, and it will act as a placeholder. So think that this is your like a score. It's a card, right? It's like a card, and you are really want to give relevant and optimal information, not maximum, not minimum. So this is very critical. Once you send your resume, you can't say I want to edit, right? It's like a Twitter tweet. They don't allow to edit. It's gone, right? You can delete it, or you can't delete even in emails. So so headings can be tiled strategically and moved around. So I told you subsections, and I'll be talking further. But every time you apply, depending upon what is what is the requirement in application, you can move sometime education at the bottom, your publication at the top, technical skill for the top. Like you can move subsection in CV. So this happens. So as I told you, this you should know the purpose. The purpose are broad, very specific and at the same time broad. Like your CV is, you're trying to sell yourself. So for example, if you get a pamphlet from Spectrum or any internet agency, right, or mobile agency, you see how nicely and how the data, the whole information is presented, that you are tempted to read that pamphlet, right? Sometimes you're amazed to see that the way they are creative, right? The same way your CV is like you in a paper or soft format. So you want to give your best in there, at the same time relevant, and it should be user friendly, easy to read, and formatting helps you to do that. And this is your CV, you may not realize, but that's the best. If I guess the best CV and I see the person has a nice, that's the next step for interview, because that's where the main thing. I don't have time to go read your Google Scholars. I don't have time to go and read your LinkedIn profile as a third level. So generally, there is a job advertisement, CV goes to HR screens it goes to hiring manager is the person who is gonna decide whether you will go for interview or you will not. So this is the third level, and third level person, I don't have no information about your LinkedIn profile, doesn't have information. I don't have time to think about all that. So that's why it's very critical to think that what if I'm interviewing for this position, what is the most critical thing I will want to see in a CV. And we'll discuss how you can actually tailor your CV based on job descriptions. Okay. So then, as I told you, you tailor your content for both the audience and job description. So you have to see both. If you just focus on job description, then you're not thinking about who is the audience, right? So as I told you, hiring manager may look for technical expertise and HR may look for behavioral attitude. And I'll show you it's very critical in some example of job descriptions. Nowadays, behavioral attributes are a lot than technical. And generally, you want to exclude data in information for salary expectations, religious, political affiliation, geographical restrictions, age, relationship. Like you don't want to write I'm married or unmarried, I'm single, who is my father name, what is my, you don't need to put all that. So it's purely should be based on your ability to do the job and nothing else. Only it gives relevant, choose and prioritize and tailor headings. I told you, like you have to think about that what is the most keyword needed for this job. So you kind of choose and prioritize, and headings you format it, right? It's not that you write once education qualification and it's forever, or you write once past experience and then forever. You want to, bit editing is needed there. So what they need, right, and then deliver a kind of message. So if you go further, so generally industry CV component have these, this is a basic. So P1 means page 1, and P1/2 means 1 or 2 or page 2. So then at least 2 page, we are thinking from 2 page point of view. So the first one, you have your heading, name, contact information. Name, you should always write, if you are a PhD, then you should write your first, last, and then PH.D. If you don't write, HRs are not expert in all these finding out about you. So that's in US standard. Some places that people write doctor and then first and last name. Then your summary, then education. Education can move, after experience. Generally, you don't want to highlight education. Your qualified education, that's where you're applying. Research experience and publications. Publication goes to page 2. Experience remains on the page 1 because people want to see that. Technical skill moves around 1 to 2 page because sometimes based on your experience you have large amount of technical skills, so it could be split, and this is very critical. Leadership experience goes to page 1, page 2, depending on how you are highlighting. Your grant, patents, honors, award, it goes to page 2. Everything. Even I keep publications on page 2. You don't want to get into that, and we will talk about how much publications. So, right, this is, I think, repetitive slide. So let's go to examples. So this is summary. I think most of us struggle to draft a summary, killing summary for the job, and this is the first thing person going to read about your CV, right? So some things are circled, right? So you really want to use and choose the keyword which is needed for application, right? So you see in this case, molecular genetics, bioinformatics expert, right? 10-year experience. So how you're expert? Because you have a lot of experience in inflammation research. You don't say biomedical research. You want to be a specific, right? And most of people do that. Like principal investigator on 2 independent grant, author 10 publication, this, and then collaboration, right? In industry job for a specific positions, you may go in more of, depending upon what kind of position you're applying. If you're applying for principal scientist, or in businesses you are applying for director level, associate director level, then you are going to have different way of quantifying your summary of experience, right? So generally it's not more than 5 bullet point. You don't want to give too much list here, so that's why prioritize and choose. Summarize primary accomplishment, which is related to that job. This is an example, so don't copy, just take as it is. And you want to highlight your soft skills, right? Because they are very important here. So interdisciplinary collaborator, right? Clinical and translational setting. So you are collaborator, you were principal investigator, right? You wrote grant, writing and all those skills, right? And always use numbers to quantify. You don't want to just give, I was an investigator for multiple grants, but how many? And it is dependent or independent. Every word matters, right? And you are giving a number, and how much was asked, how much money you got. So how people write, like when you summarize, sometime you don't use bullet, but you can use paragraph, right? Depends how you want to comfortable. So this person, this example, he's writing his summary. So he generally we take this job descriptions and just add it here, but it's not good. So this is one for the same person, but this is another one, right? Here it goes just specific, like extensive experience with applying analytical and numerical methods. And here he was saying rhematology, tribology, insight. This HR may not know at all, right? This is very specific field, but here is going analytical and numerical methods, right? So you may say, okay, NGS or attack seek and so many seek, but HR don't know anything about all that, right? So, and maybe person who is dealing next stage doesn't know. So you want to give a layman kind of information like this, right? A strong ability and all that, and then he states his immigration status also. So the purpose is that you're thinking your audience, and that's HR, the first step, and also you have to balance with hiring managers expectations. So bit of technical, it's like mixed, right? Then comes your education, and I told you, like, when you're writing your education, your university place, don't forget to write, they did not write here, but if you are applying internationally, suppose if you did your PhD from India and you write, suppose, university or whatever, like suppose if I write Tata Memorial Center, right, and then slash Mumbai, but the person who is reading in US may not know Mumbai, and he doesn't know where is Mumbai, it's India or which country. So country at the end is a must, right? You want to say a country if you're applying internationally. Suppose if you're applying someone in Sweden, and the person doesn't know where is Tennessee, right? It doesn't know where is Utah, right? So you want to say it's comma USA always, okay? And then you want to highlight 2 or 3 achievements from that particular education. You don't just want to say I did PhD, that's it. You want to just highlight most key element from that education, okay? And it could be for anything. It could be MBA, BTech, MTech, anything. And then go to the next one, experience. So experience you have to tailor, because you may have a lot of experience over these 5 year, 10 year, but you don't want to give everything in your CV, and you don't want to bore person. So you select. So how do you do this? So first you make a master CV. So in that master CV you have everything. So everything means everything and anything you have done till now in your life related to in academia or experience or confidence or anything. It could maybe 20 pages. And I do that. I created master CV, and then from there I take out things and create industry CV, okay, or resume. So you can list down your sections, research experience, analytical experience, lab management experience, leadership experience, additional experience, which may not fall all of these. So you want to just list down. Maybe you volunteered, maybe you were president, director for certain local organizations. So you want to list down that you do have leadership acumen. You attended certain workshops, and you moderated, you presented, you organized. All that can go here. So first you start with employer, organizations, institution in bold, and then teaching experience is not needed there. You don't need to mention if it is not a. So teaching experience is needed when you're applying for, suppose, training positions, like you want to be head of training or training person in the company for the employees, for technical skills or anything training. A lot of training happens in big organizations. So then you want to say that you have experience of delivering lectures, presentation, and all that. But otherwise you don't need for hardcore R&D and other position. So it's important to know how to translate what you do into what value to the position, right? So we may do a lot of things, but at that a specific region it may not be value, right? For example, if you like going into marathon, your singing skill is not of value. You may be a best singer, but at that point your running, your stamina is the main thing, right? So the same way you have to think. So how do you know what to write, right? It's very, very difficult, like how much I should write, how much I should not. And that's where it comes the idea of job descriptions. So you should, it is advises that one should read job description very, very detailed. So basically, ideally you should print out and use your marker highlighter and highlight, and I'll show you how you do highlight. So the first thing is your job description. Second, if you are heavily on networking, you are very active and good networker, then you know the information already that what is needed for that position. You can go to company website and see and you know what they do. and your message should not just include your research and technical skill, but a lot of behavioral, which we do, and I'll show you like how. um, Highlighting the key responsibilities and requirement is needed in your CV, so that your resume is addressing what they want, right? So here is the example. This is a for Broad Institute software engineer job description. So they said will design and implement, that's a keyword, right? Computational infrastructure. Then these blue one are your behavioral skill attributes. Collaborate with peers, used by product community, written report and presentations, oral and communication, work collaboratively, excellent communication, fast-paced environment, an interactive team environment, self-directed research, right? So generally we ignore all this. We think, oh, ये तो बोल देते हैं, ऐसे तो हर CV में ऐसे JD में आ ही जाता है. So the people just add it, but no, they are looking for all this in that particular position. And I'll give you one example for our lot of major audience here. This is at Pfizer. They are looking for PhD in pharmaceutical sciences. So these keywords should go into your CV. Don't ignore that. Okay, I will write life sciences whether they have asked biochemistry, biology, or because HR is very just looking for keyword. They are not looking. They don't know anything of this much. Okay, so excellent understanding. So this word should go into your CV, right? That I have excellent understanding of this one. Then demonstrate in depth and hands-on this, right? Experience in bioimaging studies are preferred. Preferred is very critical. So if you have bioimaging experience, you want to emphasize because it is preferred. They prioritize if you have that, right? PK software is required. Emphasis. You have to look for what preferred, required, plus, right? Critical, and demonstrate evidence, proven scientific effective skills. So wherever there is emphasis, you want to emphasize those things in your CV from a pool of experience and the knowledge you have. You don't want to give everything because they're just looking for that. And the whole purpose is to get into interview. And during interview, you can talk everything, whatever you want to talk, as per expectation there. But to get the first step is to just nail down to a specific needs, right? So that's how you look for keywords here. And there are people suggest you can take these whole keyword and go to word cloud. They're online, and you just paste everything. It will tell you what is the most common word coming in. But actually, you don't need all that. You just look for behavioral attribute and technical attribute, and then just format your CV based on this. You don't have to do a lot of work once you have a master CV. Then you go to the company's statement, mission statement. Don't ignore them. They are very critical. So these you can help during your interview. This will help you to emphasize your behavioral part. So you should read mission statement. They are less than half page, but they are very important for you in long term when you're interviewing throughout the process. So you want to emphasize people's excellence, change, integrity, prosperity, all this in your CV. That how did you, if you have done anything or anyways, you want to emphasize that in research we do all this, right? We work for people, we work for community. We live in the change environment, like experiments are changing, like things change every day, new experiment come up. We have to be integrated, like integrity is the key, honesty and integrity, right? Otherwise hard to remain longer. And grow prosperity. So you think as a business model, your lab as a business model, or your community as a business model, and how did you help other people to grow together. This is very critical in a team environment, and industry jobs are looking for those experiences. If you have, you should highlight that in your CV. Then comes, can you hear me clearly? Can anyone confirm?
Yes.
Yes, we hear you.
Background noise. Okay. So considering positioning towards the top of the resume, so skills should go in the first page, first of the page, or the not below bottom of the page for sure. Okay. And other headings can have all of this. You don't have to have a separate section for all these the experiences. Leadership, you're reviewing experiences. If you are associate editor or reviewer, or if you're journals editorial board, all that thing can go into leadership, and on your professional societies and everything can go here. Even if you have given oral presentation, but you should try to see what is the most critical for that particular. You don't want to highlight a lot of presentation if it is not relevant in the job. And same thing for publications. So computer skills highlighted most, right? If you have, and you should think for this job, what is the most common, most key skill required, and what is the less key skill required, and you grade all your experience and format it back, right? So suppose if it is a mixed of lab and computational position, you want to highlight both of them together. If it is highly lab work, then you want to highlight lab work, right? If it is a leadership position, then on communication level position, then you want to highlight languages and other things, right? You want to add definitely your interest, maybe one line. You want to make it human, right? Like for example, I always mention, in most of time my CV, LinkedIn, that okay, I love reading, I love help people, I'm a spiritual, I have interest in spirituality. So this makes you unique and human. You don't want to hide, and nobody objects to it, and they relate to it, that this person was, this person has been very, something, not just talking all like a robot, but about him, right? Or you can say, I love, be realistic, because during an interview they will ask you to show an example, right? Show me by example that how did you do that, do you have that skill, right? That interest, right? So if you make up the story, it is reflected. So I'm just telling you, so whatever you have, be honest with that. And then, as I told you, sometimes, most of you may know, but you have to use strong action verbs, right? And there is a whole dictionary for. I'll give you the resources link, and you will find all of this information, like what is the keywords for different section in your CV. And use first person. Avoid I. Always use we, right? Present tense for ongoing experiences, past tense for past experiences. Avoid passive word. Assisted, observed, helped, participated. You don't want to do that, because then it says that you're just listing but you're not sure about that particular thing, right? And you don't want to repeat the same word again and again. Once you wrote assisted, you don't want to repeat again in there. So, but there is a whole dictionary. You don't have to use your brain too much for finding those. So this is an example, like PhD chemistry, technical skills. So generally what happens when technical skills, you have people write, they just write all the tools and techniques they have learned, and that's it. Like bacteria colony, PCR, qPCR, RT-PCR, electrophoresis, Western blotting. And the reason they do that, because they want to save a space. They think that if I write whole detail, how did I do, then I will not have any space to write. But you don't have to write all these technical skills. So you have to kind of draft something like this, like abilities to synthesize, right? So this is a job description, right? And then you have to kind of use this. So ability to synthesize radio labeled small molecules, peptide or prepped imaging. Capacity to independently utilize, interpret data using this, right? So you are doing the same, but you are giving ability, capacity, fluorescence, ability, right? Proficiency, right? Most of time these things are also asked in the job description. You don't have to don't copy it, okay? Because then there is a typo happens and a lot of things happen. And I'll show you how you can make it more personal and quantifiable. So there is examples forward. So this is a technique. So the way you express yourself in written format will be evaluated by the reader, and it will tells you your thought process. So this is an example. It's called PAR statement: your project, your action, and result. So here is the example of lipid membrane cubic phase investigation. Action: member of the team that applied solid phase NMR. Result: distinguished membrane lipid of different phases. So how do you write? So person writes, a collaborated on a project of lipid membrane cubic phase investigation and applied solid state NMR technique to distinguish lipid of different phases, right? And this also helps you prepare during your interview. When you're talking, then you're very sure, like, okay, you're prepared already, you're not hesitating when talking and saving time. um, Another example is this one, like in vitro 3D modeling. You were project manager, performed fabrication technique, developed fabrication technique for molds. So you write, manage project team that developed fabrication technique, mold with precise shape density of, I'm not gonna read whole thing, but the whole thing that you are clubbing three different things. What is a project? What was the action you did? And what was the result? One statement, right? And that makes more pleasing to read and more informative and very strategic. So you have to quantify your experience. You don't say that I performed a PCR, but how many PCR, 2000, 5000, or one, right? I worked on the projects, but how many projects? I got this much. How much? I got a lot of revenue for the company, but how much revenue for the company? If you are in business, I established new key opinion leaders connection for the company, but how many times, in how much period of time? All is this is very relevant. So don't just, generally what people do when it comes to writing experiences, they take the job description from the previous job and then just little bit modify and put it into your experience section in the CV. No, don't do that. So it comes obvious that everything what is written in your job description, when you join the job, you may not have performed everything, but if you're copying and pasting, everybody knows. So also to think that your resume is not an autobiography, so you just want to be specific. So another example, before you people write responsible for development of enterprise-wide quality engineering service, but after you use PAR, then you apply created strategic quality engineering service for enterprise-wide solutions. So you can say lab-wide solutions, project-wide solutions, right? You can just tailor things, right? Effectiveness of e-commerce organizations, right? You are giving very specific. And let's go to the next one. I think relevant for us. So this is another one. I think project management, right? Merger, acquisition, due diligence. This is a role, but when you write like member of a MA team, so you were a member of that team, performed comprehensive due diligence and finance analysis during management evaluation, historical results, sensitivity analysis, and relevant financial evaluations. So basically, the whole thing, you see, all these keywords generally come into jobs. When people looking for these keywords in your CV, but if you write like this, they are not finding those keywords, so they're not going to move forward, right? So you have to list what you did, how you did, and impact of your work. Project may be big, but what did you do? How did you do, and what impact it has into the project? That's very critical when you're describing your experience. And you don't want to be redundant for sure. You don't want to bore person. So generally, what people, actually they are expert in something, but they write in resume. You have to write in resume like this, right? You have to proportionally spread the information. So that's the art. Don't forget your behavioral asset. This is I want to highlight a lot for you guys, and because we as scientists, as a person, we ignore all this. We think this is obvious, right? This is not to be said, but this is your asset. And every day by day, people are in companies, big companies, especially big companies, looking for these assets. Ability to work in collaborative environment, ability to work in multidisciplinary environment, ability to lead a project, strong verbal and written communication skills, team orientations, right? And you really want to highlight these if you have done with example, not just highlight, but when you're highlighting something in your CV, you should always have a story ready to support that particular asset or behavioral attribute. Otherwise, during interview, they will ask, tell us one example when you were collaborative. Tell us one situation when you where you have worked multidisciplinary and you have to tell a story. You cannot just say I was a multidisciplinary and you believe it. No, you have to give a story there. So this is another survey, and the question was that how employers rate candidate skills and qualities during when you're interviewing or looking into CV. And you see the communication is very important internally and externally. Team structure is very important. Decision making, solving problem, plan, organize, prioritize, obtain and process information, analyze quantitative data, technical knowledge related to job. So that comes at the how many, 7th 8th level. But the first thing first, right? They can train people for technical skills. It may take 3 months to train someone for certain technique, but acquiring these behavioral skills takes years and months and years, and may not be possible if the person nature is not aligned to that, right? So so this is very important, and you should, and if you see, we'll discuss at the end maybe if we have time, that all these things come up in every job description, right? This is so common. So then another section we get confused with summary and transferable skills, right? So transferable skills are those which you can transfer to the next job, right? It may include your technical, but most of time is your soft skill. So lot of things like extracurricular activities, right? Leadership, communication, customer service, innovation, business acumen, analytical power, grasping numbers, administration, management. All this is your transferable skill. And during PhD and postdoc or in your job, you would have done so many times all this, but you have to just note down now that okay, where I was doing this. You may have presented posters, you may have presented presentations, you may have collaborated, you may have worked with someone from other lab, in different field. So all this you can transfer for that particular job, right? So they call transferable skills. So as I said, just getting repeated, but experience, you have education. You can include your education as experience, right? Because if you PhD, you have a lot of experience. At the same time, it is your education, right? So especially this is dedicated for PhD. But here, written, oral, project, teamwork, leadership. These are the major one transferable skills, and these are the examples given here. You can think of and you can put the bullet points as per this, right? And then you want to be quantitative. As I told you, you want to quantify for sure that because I developed this protocol, I modified this experiment and it led to save 30% cost of my lab, 30% cost of my project, 30% or something, 20%, 30%. Some numbers you have to give, right? Nobody will ask you to prove that number, remember. So this is again another job description. So this is like the red one is research and training skill, green is education, and the soft skills are blue. So you see, you have to always find out the most critical. We always find technical skills, we can find out the educational, but soft skills we always miss, but they are written at the last, so we don't want to read, and it's very common in everything, right? So preferred is very critical. So preferred you want to definitely highlight in your CV. Anyways, you have it, and this is primary responsibility, so which is your skill set, right? And that's how the reason I'm showing you all this, that's how you should process when you're looking for job descriptions. So if based on this particular job descriptions, so it says signal image processing, biometric accuracy and everything, right? So how do you write your bullet point? Developed quantitative based image processing, keyword, right? Injuries of hand fingers, conducted statistical analysis in R to measure damage, implemented biometric algorithm, collaborated with international research team on next generation technologies. So basically you are just translating your whole experience based on this job description into 4 bullet point. um, and this is an example kind of CV. It's not a foolproof, but so generally you give your summary of qualification, your experience, very limited bullet point, very clean. Your education, as I told you, goes at the last of the first page. Leadership, honors of an award, selected presentation, selected publication. And you should not write like copy and paste bibliography. You can just write like this. Generally what I do is selected publication and then bracket Google Scholars hyperlink, so people can go and read about it. Okay, and you say first author publication, general, year, that's it. You're saving a lot of space, right? Second author, third author, and you don't just want to highlight selected. You don't want to, and you're saying out of 9, so you have total 9, you're highlighting 4. And you can give your Google Scholar, if somebody is scientific, they want to go further and read about it, right? So final tips here is proofreading, which most people miss it and we underestimate. So use spell and grammar checks in Word file. Also you can use Grammarly. Review, ask someone to review your resume for errors. Maybe your wife, your friend, your girlfriend, whatever, your brother, your father, but someone who is not aware of your field, ask them to review, because they will tell you that whether it looks readable or makes some sense or not. Okay, and I'll tell you how the HR review CV. They have their job description open and they have your CV open, and they look for the keyword. They don't have to understand the keyword. They look for keyword. And even in phone calls, if some of you have gone a phone call from HR, they will ask you keyword. Do you have this experience? Yes, 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 yes. Are you proficient? Are you active? Yes, yes, yes. They just look for checklist. They are not looking for understand that. And this blurring and all this, don't do all that. Italics too much, italic and bold, both are not needed. So how many pages? I told you, don't go 1 page. If you are postdoc, you need 2 to 3 pages. If you are masters, or if you are MBA with 10-year experience, you go for 2-3 pages. If you want to include publication, use an addendum, but that goes in hard copy. Soft copy, you can't do that. Avoid jargons, acronyms, course numbers and all that. Avoid repetition of word I. Don't do that much. Less is more. Leave out unnecessary word phrases. Okay, and some things you should not do it. This is very critical. Don't list your references, okay, in industry CV. Never ever do that. If they need it, they will ask you. Most of the time they do phone referencing. They call you your references. Never include your photo. It's not allowed in US, maybe in Europe, but you don't want to do that all that. Overemphasis not needed. Extraneous and personal information, marital status, father's name, date of birth, not needed. Or that statement, I hereby declare that all information is correct, not needed. Okay. Odd size papers, like you don't want to, I told you, format and don't forget to read. So then the last one is cover letter. So once you have your CV and you know that what position you're applying, so you have to focus on your summary, what you wrote in your CV and experience, and you are going to work on your cover letter now. In cover letter, you want to expand on few items on your resume which you wrote. You want to elaborate based on the job description. Discuss your motivation in that field, why you want to get into that field and why you are a good fit for that team. Don't expect them to read your CV and then come to know that you are a good fit. You have to say, since I have all this, therefore I'm a good fit for this position. You have to sell yourself. Okay, so demonstrate written communication skill. That's the best way. Like when you can draft excellent cover letter, right? And that's your communication skills, and that's also a proof of legitimate interest in each company. You can personalize your cover letter for company. You can have one line about the company, why that company is important, why that field is important, right? And you can get that based on their site mission statement or ongoing project. Maybe you read job description, you think that this project is related to this particular molecule or drug is coming from this company. You want to say that recently I saw that you launched this product, which I really like it. I really want to work on these areas, and this job I think is related to this project, so therefore I'm interested, right? Which means you have been following the employer and their work. So the basics, it should not be more than 1 page, okay, maximum 3.5 pages. Use example with outcome, avoid list, no list, and you have to sell yourself by saying how you are going to help the organization. Okay, you have to say that, right? Since I have these, so therefore my experience and my skill set would be at high importance for this role and organization at large. So you mention like that, right? And one accomplishment outside of your research, one thing which you did outside of your research, you can highlight there. And then also highlight that aside all these what I listed, I also work as a director and here, and I learned these communication skill on needed for this role. So you want to give 1-2 line, and throughout whole thing you have to maintain positive tone. Positive tone means you don't need to say, maybe if you find time to read this letter, you don't want to say all that, speculation. So also do not submit the same cover letter for each job. You can create a master cover letter which have most of your experience, like your CV, but you just draft it out. If they ask you, you submit it. If they don't ask you, don't submit it. Okay, that's the rule. So research company user language that describes missions. If you have time, try to speak to someone current and former employer. Side conversation, if you had someone with on LinkedIn that I have spoken to this person and came to know about this position, therefore I'm writing this letter, an application for this position. You can cite those. And I told you, use job description to process your information. And every time you have to relate back your example to the company, right? And if you know the recruiter or hiring manager in job description, then you should address by name. Otherwise you can say hiring manager or whatever, research, HR or anyone, but you have to draft like that. I'll give you some example of cover letters, so I'm not gonna show you an example, but generally you have 4 paragraphs. The first paragraph, as I told you in email writing last session, introduce yourself, right? I am this, working here, this, right? You have to go introduce. Then why you are writing, right? Reason for interest, right? Where did you learn about this position, right? You can hyperlink that okay, I am, and also that the job ID, job numbers, it's easy for the person to go back. So all this you have to use here, the email writing thing which I told you earlier. And at least 2 competencies you have to highlight for that role which you have, at least 2. Okay, competencies means which are very critical for that job. Okay, second paragraph is example to support these competencies which you are claiming at here, right? And second paragraph include how those competencies are related to the company and the role. Third paragraph uses second competencies and how they are related to company, and the fourth one, closing sentence. Okay, and look forward for interview, looking forward to hearing from you, whatever you can use here. So always organize your whole thing in 4th paragraph. That's it. And you have to, why proofread? You can just read this and you'll come to know how annoying, according to research, you get crazy with English, right? It's not easy to read, so that's why you should proofread. Okay, and it's hard to read your own, so you can ask someone to read. So with that, I reach to the end, and let's take some questions. I'm stopping sharing so that I can see you all guys. Should I finish in time? Yeah, perfect. Today we have 10 minutes to talk. Okay, open for discussion. Whatever questions if you guys have.
Um, yeah, Pawan, that was good information. I have a couple of questions on that. Uh, so the first thing is, say like, I don't know if we should put our research experience under like a employer. I mean, uh, behind our institution where we got that, or like the job or the employer from whom we got that. Is it like related to that, or like we just give our skills like in an order?
So
Say,
research
uh,
experience and skill is two different
uh-huh,
section. Two different section. So research experience is
mm-hmm,
separate section and skill
mm-hmm,
is separate section. Okay.
mm-hmm,
Um, so for example,
mm-hmm,
if I tell you that I have experience of playing football,
mm-hmm,
then you will ask which team,
mm-hmm,
because the designate I may be playing in my courtyard,
mm-hmm,
or if I'm playing for whatever DFL or whatever big place, right? So
mm-hmm,
the place you got experience is relevant, right?
mm-hmm,
I have experience of cooking in my kitchen or Taj Hotel, right? And
mm-hmm,
how many years I cooked, right? So the number, the year, the duration is important, right? And
yeah,
then what did I cook, right? So cooking is one thing, but what did I cook, right? And what is the most favorite dish which I cook the best, right? The same thing you can use when you're describing your experience, right? um, and you always change based on the job description you're applying for, right?
mm-hmm,
And so you can change that. Your education, your institution remain constant, your duration remains constant, but your the 2 points, bullet points, can change as per
yeah.
expectation. Is that helps, Ashwin?
Yes. So I say, and this is another question which I always have a dilemma of. Say, like I have gained I mean, we do research probably on the similar topics, and we would have performed the same technical skills at like multiple places, like when during our postdoc and during our PhD and things like that. And uh, we got some exciting results on both the places. So, how do I like? Do I is a repetitive telling a repetitive skill is it important, or to show that I have so much of experience on that and I have like handled multiple projects on that, is showing that important? Or like I've already said them that I know this, and they already know that uh, I've solved one problem on that, so there's not necessity to show the next one.
So there are two things in there. As I told you, the skill section is different. Okay, so
Mm-hmm,
but your point is correct. You may have done fluorescence microscopy in your masters and PhD in postdoc, right? But
mm-hmm.
the purpose was different. The outcome was different every time, right?
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm,
So that's why you have to prioritize and choose what was the
mm-hmm,
most exciting and relevant for
mm-hmm.
that particular thing, right? You want to emphasize there, then emphasizing everywhere, right? And and not everything has to go in CV repetitively. You said once, fine, they got the keyword, they move forward. And that's why there is a 5 6 rounds of interviews you go through, where you can describe everything. Look, I said once in a CV, but I have done 3 times for 8 years. So then you can speak. You have the time to
Okay.
speak, right? You have at least five
Mm-hmm,
six hours of interview over these 5 6 rounds, and
mm-hmm.
you can surely kind of elaborate. And they will ask you to elaborate. They will ask you, so tell me an example, when did you use this, with an example, right? So that happens.
And my last question is, I mean, if we don't know to whom our cover letter is addressing, I don't know if it's HR or if it's hiring manager or who, what is the safest term that we can use to address in the cover letter?
Sorry, can you repeat? Just reading message. What is HR?
Okay. So I don't know to whom my cover letter is addressing. I don't know if I'm sending it to a HR or a hiring manager or someone else. So what is the safest term I can use in the covering letter?
I think if you use, I think the hiring manager is good. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you. So at the end, your CV goes to hiring manager. Okay,
Yeah.
and though,
Mm-hmm.
I mean this, frankly to say, this is, I say on the face, the scientists are one of the most egoistic people on the planet. So they want respect and they want to be recognized. Okay, and so HR may not mind all that, but
Mm-hmm.
as a postdoc, and they want to see cover letter proper. So you want to say hiring manager, and most of time hiring managers are your, they are scientists. In our
Mm-hmm.
case,
Okay.
so you just say hiring manager and HR don't mind. So
Mm-hmm.
you're good for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Aswin. And anyone else have question?
Hi, Pawan. This is Ranjit. Uh, can you hear
Yes,
me?
yes.
Yeah. I want to ask, as you mentioned about the master CV and tailor make, and I have I have done postgraduate diploma in computer application. So because when you write from bachelor's to the master's to the PhD, you have to write based on the year, and then when you are writing there is a gap, there is like, if I want to tailor make it, I can delete my PGDCA here, but there will be a gap of few years, so I have to write PGDCA. Now I have done PGDCA long time in 1997, and I have forgotten most of the languages and most of the thing which I did or the project I did there. But now, for two purpose, the first number in order, because there are keywords, they are asking some computer skills, they want some bioinformatics. So there it is helping me. It is saying that yes, he has done some computer certification and now he may be helpful in this role also, but now I have forgotten everything about it. And during interview, if they come up across with that PGDC and then they try to catch me there, how to handle that situation?
So thank you, Ranjit. So this thing is like, it is suggested that you should list in terms of education, in certain education and certification which are relevant. And when you're listing your education, you should just list PhD maximum. If you are like PhD and postdoc, you don't have to list past like bachelor's or everything, masters too much there. Maximum masters, PhD, postdoc. Now comes to this particular specific case in your scenario. What I would do is, um, I would kind of write that in my summary section or skill section. Okay, I'm not going to mention that in my certification or education section. I'll just say in my summary section, um, or summary section, that have the knowledge of computational program, and just kind of mentioning lightly, so then the person knows that you are aware. And in the skill section, you know I obtained PGDCA certificate, and learned these languages, right? So, or something like aware of these languages in these computational language. So one line is enough. You're not over highlighting, you're not under highlighting. And if they ask you how did you learn, then you can say, okay, I did certification in interview. So how much you can just say like that, rather than dedicating a section on your education or certification. I would do like that, just to keep it mild, so that you can say I did not highlight because I was not highly proficient. At the same time, I highlight because I know it. So
So, Pawan, I have one thing to share to everyone. that I got interviewed for the first round in one of the company, and now they have selected me for the second round of interview, which is for 5 hours, in which I have to give 1 hour of presentation. And I'm preparing for it, and I have connected to you, but I want to let everybody know that I'm going through this phase and I'm preparing my presentation. And if anybody has anybody interest and have a little bit time tomorrow, maybe after 10 a.m. to till 6 p.m., I can give presentation and I can interact with them. And this is the way they are also going to learn
Yeah,
that
yeah,
how I am.
yeah. So I was just, yeah, if anybody has time, just hop on a call and help Ranjit. Listen to his presentation. We have been talking over chat and I gave some feedback, but unfortunately I'm going running out of a lot of things here time.
I,
So if you have time, just kind of connect with him, or Ranjit maybe reach out to you like in the Slack group, and please, it's a giving each other's, right? So just kind of hop on, spend 30 minutes, maybe you're just attending a discussion. So yeah,
Yeah, we are a
thank you.
small group here
Yeah,
where we are in the same
yeah,
situation,
yeah,
want to transition into industry, and then I'm also putting a lot of efforts
yeah,
into it. So
yeah, yeah. Thank you,
thank
Ranjit.
you, thank you.
Yeah. Anybody has any other questions?
Hi, Pawan, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So my question is, you talked about the differences between a CV and an industrial CV and a resume, right? So can you also give some insights about that how an academic postdoc cover letter should be different from industrial postdoc cover letter?
I mean, ideally, what we have to think about that what industry is looking for, right? So, and a lab may require totally different kind of skill set, but at the postdoc level, you don't have too much difference. Even if you go to industry, they have some project, you're going to work on it. You may have more collaboration, more technique, fast paced, like the speed may be faster, and a lot of collaboration. But except these behavioral attributes, the technique, the techniques and those things doesn't change. They want to look for your publication, they want to look for your project you worked
No,
on.
so I'm pointing towards the structure. For example, for the cover letter of the industry, you gave like paragraph one should have this, paragraph two and three should have this, and paragraph four should have this, right? So, but I believe for an academic postdoc, we go on to say that these are, I mean, we go on to describe our research theme which we have worked on, then how we have developed in their work and what we would like to do there, and right. So
Yeah, yeah. Even
I was just
same
trying to
thing,
figure it.
same approach you're going to use in industrial postdoc also, right? You should be aware of what that team is working on where you're applying for the postdoc, right?
Hmm.
What that company has been doing in that area, right? You
Hmm,
would
hmm,
want to cite their clinical trial, their product release, their some launch of a new drug, right? You want to highlight the
hmm, hmm,
launch of their models which came up in the past, right?
hmm, 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 hmm.
And if you have used some of those during your PhD, and
Yeah,
even
yeah.
not directly but indirectly related things, right, you have done, then you want to highlight that I was fascinated when your company launched this product, and I was thinking, in future I may get opportunity to work on such projects, challenging project in your organization. So same thing, same approach, but the keywords, the way you're presenting is different, right? And more of, in PI's case, you want to just talk about that PI and project, you don't talk about the institution and department, right? uh,
Yeah, yeah.
but in company you want to talk about the bigger level of organization and the company's mission statement. You have to read, as I told you, like you read about mission statement, you think about the behavioral attributes, because in industry, the behavioral industrial postdoc, the behavioral attributes are going to be a lot, Like, can you work
All right.
interdisciplinary? Can you work collaboratively? Can you work in fast-paced environment? All this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
So,
Okay.
the innovation mindset, and all creativity, communication, right? So these attributes become key, right?
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone
Hello,
else?
hello,
Yes,
Pawan.
Deepesh. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So it's very good presentation and discussions. I have very small question. When we mention the when we write the resume, so in the title, should we write a postdoctoral fellow, VR, or we are research scientist, like a technical thing? What we should write?
Okay. So if you see the job description, right,
Mm-hmm.
they say PhD plus this year of experience most of time. Sometimes they say postdoctoral experience, right? Depending upon who is drafting the job description.
Yes.
So to be honest, I would keep what I am actually. So if
Okay.
I am a research associate, because your pay slip will have that designation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you are going to submit sometime in future. They never ask your pay slip, but if you have give any proof, suppose if you have to get a letter of recommendation from your PI, then he is going to write the same thing what you are. He's not
Mm-hmm.
gonna mesh up the words with for some legal reasons and all that. So I would use what I am,
Okay.
um, and and I don't think they don't care about what you are, but how many years of experience. Whether you're a postdoctoral fellows, research associate, research scholar, research scientist, research assistant professor, research, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter, right?
Okay.
But you
Mm-hmm.
don't want to, if you it is not academic position, you don't want to write assistant professor, research assistant professor, which is like advanced stage postdoc, right?
Yeah.
Staff
Yeah.
scientist, you can write staff scientist, you can write instructor, you can write
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think these are the most common. but
Okay.
but having as it is useful. You don't have to worry and defend, right?
Mm-hmm. And the second thing is like in your CV you mentioned like green card there. So do we need to write the visa status or it's not? Because I think they also recruiter also look at which visa status do you like you have. So do we need to mention in the CV or when they call they will ask you?
So here is the thing. They do phone
Mm-hmm.
screening, and they're gonna
Mm-hmm.
ask you anyways whatever you mention, and you want to do that phone call. Generally, I would advise don't mention that. so
Yes.
so until unless you have a green card, so
Mm-hmm.
you mention positive things, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you filed your I-140, like
Mm-hmm.
EB-1A or
Mm-hmm.
EB-1B
Mm-hmm.
and IW, then you want to mention that filed.
Okay.
That gives a positive that you
Okay.
are thinking about next
Okay.
step and you're thinking long
Okay.
term in US,
Okay.
right? But you don't want to, I'm on J1. No, you don't want to do that.
Yes.
So
Yes.
let it be,
And
yeah,
yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. And the last thing is like you mentioned, we need to tailor our resume and the cover letter. I mean, they ask sometimes cover letter. So let's say if they ask cover letter also, and I mean it's little hard. Of course we can make the master CV and master resume, but I mean it's little hard to tailor the
Yeah.
resume and cover letter for each company. So how you managed when you were applying,
Yeah.
making the CV resume and then applying, let's say 10 job per day, and which is very less, I guess.
Yeah.
So we
So,
need to be like 50 or 60, right?
yeah, I was crazy. So, so I don't think so I had, like, I have been working on my CV like from 2017, right? The first time I
Mm-hmm.
prepared the CV. And then I
Mm-hmm.
got in one job, industry job. Then I got into another industry job. Then I moved in postdoc. Then I moved to another job here now.
Mm-hmm.
And I did tailor my cover letter, not much of my CV.
Okay.
Because sometimes I do like sift things. But tailoring, you just copy and paste next step
Mm-hmm.
and save as a doc file. No, post the
Mm-hmm.
PDF file.
PDF.
But I agree, it is hard. But there is a thing. I'll tell you. I told you I was crazy. So, but I don't want everyone to get crazy. So, once you select the list of companies, okay, list of areas you want to apply,
Mm-hmm.
and then I did like maybe 400 application, and you, if you are doing the tailoring, you may have to do just 50 application, right?
Okay.
So basically, it's quality versus quantity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if you just do 50 application and you get 10 interview calls, you're good. You don't need to worry, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but I have to do 400 application because I'm not doing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's the difference.
So how much you applied like per day, like just
Oh,
randomly?
I used to kind of. I started in May,
Mm-hmm.
um, and by July, and I had the offer.
Okay.
So, in my case, the one thing was difference, and I must
Mm-hmm.
admit that
Mm-hmm.
I already had industry experience. Right, I
Mm-hmm.
worked 2 year, like senior scientist and everything. So, though if I'm not tailoring and not working too much, I have keywords and already everything ready.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was looking for very specific areas like in vitro diagnostics, NGS, cancer. So that way, I don't have to tailor every time. But if you're looking in diverse areas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Suppose if you're
Okay.
looking research scientist in vitro, 3D culture,
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
intestinal areas, then you don't have to do too much.
Mm-hmm.
But if it is broad, then I had academic CV separate, science policy CV separate, in vitro diagnostic CV separate,
Yeah.
right? So it
Yeah.
just five different CVs, and I know, okay, I am 90% close to the job description. So that's what I used to do. Like just
Yeah.
and cover letter I will change, right? I have to change job
Mm.
ID. I have to change
Yes.
the company name. The
Mm.
when you're writing company name, use the street exact address, like street
Okay.
address, pin code, and everything. Huh? Don't just
Okay.
write company name because that says that you went and checked about the
Okay.
company and got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. And this about the possible roles that we can go in or we can find it interesting. How to how to know? I mean, we see like different type of job: lead scientist, application scientist, this manager. So I mean, so like when you say you were kind of, I mean, maybe you were too specific, but let's say I'm not very specific to that area, but I'm a little bit generalized. So my question is how to know which kind of field or designation we should look for. Is there any way, or just comes with experience, just looking for the job
So
maybe every day?
generally, after postdoc, like 5 year postdoc, PhD postdoc, the company hires for scientist or senior scientist roles.
Okay.
It hardly you get principal scientist role or like staff scientist or associate director, assistant director. No, um, I think till there is a high chance if you don't have any industry experience, PhD and postdoc, then you should apply for scientist, research
Mm-hmm.
scientist,
Mm-hmm.
senior scientist maximum, I would say,
Okay. Okay.
because you should see how many experience they are asking, years of experience they are asking, and they are very particular about years of experience and years of experience in that area where you are applying. Not
Mm.
like I may have 8 year of experience, but they may be totally different. 2 year may be different, 3 year may be different. So
Mm.
and they see it, CV. Don't think that just because I said 8 year they believe it. They're gonna see of
Yeah.
that 8 year how many years I have done that particular work, right?
Yeah.
So to get into, I would say I used to apply like a lot of variety of head director, but you
Mm-hmm.
never get an interview call.
Okay.
You only get where your 80% match in the job description and the CV. So so you have to always like vague manner quantify that, okay, out of these 10 bullet points, how many I have, and if it is
Mm.
70, 80, you go for it. Like just
Okay.
chances are that they will
Yeah.
talk to you
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
there is no immigration drama.
Mm.
So that's the last one, but you should not worry. If they're talking to you, if they talk you second time, that means
Mm-hmm.
they are gonna offer you the
Okay.
the visa.
Okay.
Yeah, it's obvious. You don't have to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Many
Mm-hmm.
times they don't disclose till they give you offer. They'll say, okay, we'll talk to our lawyer and all that. Hold on, they are not telling you because they want to negotiate at the end. They will tell
Mm-hmm.
you that, okay, because I'm giving you this, so you may get 10% lesser than the industry standard.
Okay. Okay.
So they just hold on. So you don't freak out that I'm not sure they are gonna give me visa. Why I'm wasting my 4 hours, 10 hours. So that happens.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you upload the resume, it's so you prefer Word format or the
No,
PDF format?
if they ask you doc, then you do. Otherwise, PDF.
PDF format.
And
Okay.
always name your PDF copy very
Mm-hmm.
nicely. I told you, I think
Mm-hmm.
email
Mm-hmm.
company, everyone, email
Yeah. Yeah.
communication. The
Yeah.
date, your name, your designation, and then underscore
Mm-hmm.
your CV, like resume,
Yeah.
whatever you want to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Name it, huh? Don't those small things
Mm.
matters a lot. Like
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Thanks.
we are exceeding time, but anybody has any last question?
Hi, Pawan. I have a question that does industry have a rippling effect? Like if you are rejected one time, then you will not be get selected the other time. Because I have applied one job in Eli Lilly and I get interviewed for second time, like it was 5 hours long. And then they have rejected me and they hired somebody else. But after that, whenever I'm applying to Eli Lilly and the application got rejected.
Yeah, so it's hard to speculate, but what happens generally if the same person who has worked with you 2 times, right? If the same person is still there and they are managing that hiring, so the in company different verticals, it called verticals, means different domains have different hiring managers, okay,
Mhm.
and HRs. So HRs are also very diverse. They are in different areas. Okay. So if the same person is doing is still there, then that's why maybe they are don't want to consider again, right? But if they change or new person comes, sometimes they flag into the portal that we have there is a history of your application
Yeah,
history,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
Mhm.
what you can do, I would suggest you delete you just create a new account with a new email ID, okay?
Okay.
So that way your history is not trackable for the next next time,
Okay.
right? So I mean these are the small tricks to just
Mhm.
you don't want to tell them that 2 times it did not work out, okay? And maybe new HR or new things may pop up, right? So that's what I think one thing you can do. Otherwise hard to know why they are not. Maybe I think most of time they don't. If there is no immigration issue, there is nothing, then it's a behavioral component. It's
Mhm.
a something behavioral component they are looking for, but they are not able to find. And so that would be one thing, and it's very personal and very specific to the job, right?
Mhm.
So I think, yeah, that could be one thing, but otherwise I don't see like reason for
Okay.
rejection. Yeah.
So does Illumina also has the rippling effect? Because when I was in San Diego, I applied to Illumina. At that time, I don't have any GC issues, like green card issues. No, no, no. I have the GC issues. So whenever I apply to Illumina, they simultaneously they reject my application. So in
No, no,
five
no.
minutes, they reject my application.
Oh, 5 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
um you can try now. So what you can do this thing, okay? When you apply,
Mm-hmm.
just there is option, a referral in your
Mm-hmm.
application, okay? You can mention my name, referral. So if you mention my name and it comes to me via my workday that
Mm-hmm.
I approve that referral, then HR has to take it, okay?
Okay.
That's the one way it works in companies. So if that is happening, one thing, you can create a new email ID and create a new account,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Second, that you ask someone to refer,
Mm-hmm.
then they have to watch, see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think these two
Okay.
things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That would work.
All right, and should we end here today for today? And next week we have excellent panel discussion. We have around 400 people registered across the world, so it's gonna be a big event. And I would advise you guys to, these people on the panel, they are from diverse background. Like one person is head of HR at Biocon Bangalore, not BBRC Bangalore. It's a mostly research engine BBRC. Other person is vice chancellor at UCSF, vice president, I don't remember. Bill, I met him 2 years before, and now I just asked him, and he was happy to get on board. And third person in Heidi, she is a good, a resume writer and certified resume writer. So you can ask a lot of questions from them during call. It will be on the Zoom broadcasted, all social media platforms of iSTEM Care. So that's the plan. And then next week we are talking about LinkedIn, right? I believe LinkedIn. So let's end here, and if you have any feedback, comments, just let me know, or anything to be improved on. All right.
Pawan, I just have this one thing. Whenever you are like, I don't know if it's my internet, or other people can also comment on that. The animation that you have in transitioning the slide, it takes like 2 more seconds to actually show it, but you started before that. I don't know if it's my internet, and that's one thing that I would like to say. If it's
Okay.
normal, then because of the internets, it would be easier to pop up and we can follow it as
I
you
can
talk.
remove the animation. May have simpler animation next time. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Yeah, a lot of things are happening in the group. Like some people, like Ranjit, he has the
Mm-hmm.
interview.
Yeah.
Arjun is that kind of, he already had interview. He's going through visa process. So help each other. I would say if you have time, just hop the call with Ranjit. I gave him a lot of feedback about preparing presentation. So you will see, and you can ask, and help each other. Just giving 15-20 minute time. I think that's one thing. Then you will build the relationship by interaction. You never know who is going to be where in future, and who can help you. So it's just to give and take. Yeah. All right, guys. Then have a good weekend and good night if you're from India. A lot of people are not joining. I don't know why, but yeah. Okay. Chalo then. Bye bye. I'll end here.
Okay, bye, Pawan.